Hey everyone, today's video is hopefully going to be pretty informative. In a couple different groups over the last month or so, I've seen a pretty consistent pattern of people asking lately about is it okay to keep different species of reptiles, but more specifically snakes, in the same building or even room. And while I did leave a pretty quick answer that hopefully wasn't ignored to all of those different ones in the different Facebook groups, and I don't remember which one most recently kind of inspired me to do this. So if you're watching it, haha. But today I wanted to just kind of give a couple little helpful hints and tips about ways that you can more successfully keep multiple species regardless of, like, you know, the husbandry issues, right? So we'll just say that you, regardless of whatever species it is, your husbandry is dialed in for them. So let's talk about actually keeping them successful.
Now, obviously, as you all probably know at this point and can also clearly see by all the different racks and cages that I do keep quite a few different species. So here are things that I do that really benefit and aid me in being able to do this very successfully. So here, I'll zoom out a little bit for you guys. This is kind of my basic husbandry cart setup, right? So the biggest thing when it comes to keeping different species is essentially Zuanic diseases. Now, for the people that have been in the hobby for a very long time, I'm sure at this point you all probably know a good amount about it, but definitely with the onset of like COVID and everything that had to do with like the introduction to that and how we think it may or may not have gotten established, Zuanic diseases are a big thing. They've existed as long as we've been essentially keeping and living next to animals, from livestock to dogs to everything else. So when thinking with reptiles, the easiest number one thing that I can suggest is using different utensils for different species. Most zoonotic diseases are transferred via bodily fluid. There are some out there that aren't as prevalent in the reptile husbandry, keeping industry and hobby. It's usually via respiratory issues, but it's almost always via bodily fluid transfer. Saliva, blood, so mites essentially, and through fecal matter and urates. So if you use different equipment for each individual species, then that can really help dial in and really limit that essentially physical limitation of that. Yes, obviously quarantine being a huge part of that. So for anyone watching this, waiting for me to bring that up, I have a whole really good video about quarantining. I'll remember to put it right here so you can take a look at that. But let's talk about what you can do once they're actually in your main collection and you've gone through all of your quarantine procedures. So first things first is different utensils and different things. So I'm just kind of going to go through all the stuff that I have on my little carts here to kind of show you. So first thing first, water. Remember we talked about saliva. So your animals are drinking water. They're rubbing against the sides of your water dish. So you need to be able to at least keep your clean water, even if you're not changing your water's dish every single time. At least you need to be able to do your frequent water changes. So I use different buckets for my individual species. So obviously balls. So this is for my ball pythons, and I actually will use this as well for my regular pythons as well, but I will change that out afterwards. And then we have the boas down there, and then this is for colubrids and the lizards. So that way we'll do them all separately. They all have the individual little things, so that way we can do the water changes separately. Obviously we have gloves here. So we know whenever I'm doing, I'll start with, say, today I'm going to do ball pythons first. So ball pythons go first. I glove up. We go through, we spot clean. We do the water dishes. We do the water changes. We change out hides. We change out dirty water dishes, everything else like that. Now you might be thinking, what's going on with this, right? Well, this is actually what I use for disposal. As I'm going through, I have my sink in the very back, but this is a big building, so that's a lot of walking back and forth. And so essentially what I do when I do the water changes, I'll take the dirty dish, be it a cup in a rack or a big bowl or whatever it is, and I'll dump it out in here. And this catches the physical parts, so the poop, the hard urates, any bedding that they knocked in there, because reptiles are going to do what reptiles are going to do. That way this can be dumped either outside or down the sink or wherever, and then this can be physically thrown away in the trash. And so, you know, me being here on this place, it's either going outside onto the ground or it's going in a septic system. You don't want any of that kind of stuff in a septic system. So that's what this is for. So that's all the water dishes, right?
This is a bus tub for the dirty dishes that we can sit there and collect as we're changing out the water dishes. And then theoretically, this was actually usually on the bottom, and then the clean ones are on here. This is just, so when I go through and I go, okay, we're going to do water changes, we're going to put just a stack of new clean bowls and hides on this shelf. This one's normally on the bottom. I am not doing that at the moment because I already washed a whole bunch of them, and I have a whole bunch of new ones that I'm going to be washing in relatively soon. So that's what that is for. Obviously, we have, this is kind of my utility cart. So we have paper towels. We have a little scraper that we use. We have another little scraper right here. This is for getting those tough urates and stuff off of the corners of tubs, in the corners of cages. That's what these guys are for. This is something that I use to like shave the feet off of some of those plastic tubs, whatever. Obviously hand sanitizer, and then the 3 basic chemicals that I am usually using in one form or another. So our chlorhexidine mixture, this is vinegar water, and then this is normally back at my back bar. I just threw it here because I was using it in a different area of the property, and I just threw it on here. So this is a bleach solution. There are other ones that are used fairly relatively, and I will show you my back bar in just a little bit. As well as I have several different fire extinguishers around this building. So there's just another one right there. And then, so we talked about the water, different utensils. That is helping with the transmission of bodily fluids. But there's another thing that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, and that is feeding tongs. So I am a big proponent of these guys, right? These hemostats, and throw one on the ground. These big hemostats, I like them better than the tongs, give some physical distance, something that's not super. There's distance between hopefully your theoretically warm prey item that you're feeding, if you're feeding frozen thaw or pre-kill or whatever may have you, and then your warm hand, right? So that's why I like these. However, when you're doing multiple species, when I'm doing it by myself, I'll usually just go, this is for boas and this is for pythons, and easy peasy, right? Well, there's actually another new product and a company that came up with something that will make that even easier, that will be able to do that. And yeah, sure, you could probably label those as well, but Redline Science actually has a bunch of different colored hemostats right here. They're not the locking kind, but theoretically, these guys are tough enough and strong enough to be able to hold up to, you know, you're probably, whatever you're feeding, like an XL colossal rat to, you probably want something that's a little bit longer than this anyway. So these guys work really well, so that way you can sit here and go black for boas, green for pythons, and the rainbow pearlescent whatever for colubrids. And so that's the Redline Science, or they are very often in different physical reptile stores. So if you want to help out a small business like I did, so you can go to your reptile brick and mortar store and support them. They all may or may not have different little kind of deals with Redline Science, whether they get a kickback or not. Like, for instance, I live in southern-ish Colorado, so these guys I picked up at Beasties in Pueblo. So that's that, and then so we'll continue along the way again. So there's the boas. They all have the individual little things there. We have the 2 different digital thermometers, so that way each one will give out a different reading, so that way it'll really help me dial in which is which. We also have a scale, the little bowl I use there, as well as extra and just kind of back up little tongs and other little feeding utensils right there. The other big thing that I will show you before I go over to the back bar and show you kind of how that also aids in kind of helping do all this, it's organization. When you have as many animals as I do, or even if you don't have into, you know, the triple digits or whatever it is, and you just have, you know, a dozen animals but 4 different species, and you want to keep them all separately, organization is a big part of that. So properly labeling of things, doing the color-coded things, but also keeping track of records is a big proponent. Right now, there are actually quite a few apps on the market right now. I guess the market, they're just available for reptile keepers. I'm an old school guy, so this is actually my feeding chart right here. This is how I go through, and I will label all of the different ones when they're eating, and they're all essentially color-coded for my ease or for someone who is helping me, specifically with the ball pythons, because we had so many ball pythons versus other species. So pink is girl, blue is boy, all the different sizes. Highlighter is for live eaters, when they were last eating, and so this goes out for 5 different feedings, or 6, or however many I did. I just recently changed it up, so 6 different feedings. So theoretically, this will go across the span of anywhere from 1 to 2 months, depending on whichever one that is. And then you just transfer it over to a new clean sheet. So we have, you know, the ball pythons, we have, and then there's other pythons in there. We have the boas, we have And like I said, there's also apps if someone you don't like this kind of paper thing. This kind of helps me keep my thoughts straight. So, the tropical room, which is over there now. So, the tropical room, then we have quarantine and all the different colubrids. And even there's a section for colubrids that eat every week versus colubrids that eat every 5 days for the little ones and the Trimarchon and things like that. So basically, this is something that really helps me in the organization part of it. Now let me go show you the back bar to also show you a good way that, again, not necessarily how you have to do it, just a way that really benefits me. So this is kind of my back area. Obviously, that 99% of you guys, you don't have your own separate building for all this. This would theoretically be in your bathroom or your kitchen or whatever it is. But these are things that really kind of help me out. So obviously, backup of all of these guys. And then over here, just ignore that, I guess. But, here is all the different chemicals and spray bottles that we'll use. So we have like F10, we have, because I have dogs in here sometimes, we have Nature's Miracle and bleach, and then, chlorhexidine, Listerine, different measuring cups for different solutions and things like that. 2-compartment sink, we have Dawn dish soap, we still have the bleach up top again, the chlorhexidine top again, the F10, hand soap, different sponges, Synton box for both stuff for me as well as for the animals, so like gauze, band-aids, finger cots, there's not a whole lot in there, athlete's cream for like the eggs and things like that for the different animals when it comes to working with that, as well as for us as well. So this is just something that is very beneficial to kind of the organization of that. This allows for different steps. So, if I'm cleaning, doing easy, kind of just like easy soap and water cleaning, you can fill this up with soapy water, wash it off, there we go, and dry it off. If we're doing bleach solutions, we can soap and water and clean it, and then we can bleach it, and then let it dry in the sink, and then rinse it off, soap and water again, put them over there. So these guys are all being reused, yada, yada, yada. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video. Hopefully I wasn't too long-winded. I know it took just a little bit to get into the actual tips and tricks of that, but again, I hope that while I was kind of ranting and rambling a little bit, it was actually beneficial for you guys. So hopefully you got something out of this today. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Maybe it thought of something that you haven't been doing, gave you an inspiration to do something either the way I did it, or maybe an adaptation, you're going to put your little spin on it, or heck, maybe there's something that I didn't even bring up that's also beneficial to keeping multiple species, and you want to throw it down in the comments, absolutely. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you all so much. If you wanted to learn more about the whole quarantine thing again, I will put it here at the end of the video like I did earlier as well. So again, thank you so much. Hope you're all having a great day, and we'll check you next time.